But again, it's an individual art form. This is what you want to do. It's your art. You do whatever you want to do with it. I mean, there are certain rules that you should follow that are a little better. And eventually, you'll see just from show and tell. You'll know the direction you should be going. Nobody has to tell you. You would automatically see the direction that you want to go. So basically, depending on the size of your piece will be the length of your stave. Yeah. And for bigger pieces, your bigger stave, smaller pieces, smaller staves. Once you've you've done the bottom and stuff, there's again different, I used to glue it in with the CA glue, and over time I've had a lot of the bottoms come out. So I don't use that CA glue at all anymore. And I mean, it was very clean, very easy to use, but temperature change and time, I've had failures. So I use the regular Type-On glue now for all of my bottoms. I put the bottoms in, and you know, I haven't noticed that I've had any failures since then. Any other questions on how this is shaped or how these are done?
The Type-On, the wood Type-On or the urethane Type-On?
I use the wood. The urethane stuff, it expands a little bit. You know, it gets a little. You know, when I put a bottom in this, you know, it's pretty well finished, and I don't want to have a mess to have to clean up.
It foams out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the reason that I've used that for other things, but I won't use it for that because it does foam out. And if you don't have it in any type of press to hold it in there, it'll actually pop the bottom. Right, it has to be clamped. You know, what I do with something like this, I'll put this in the drill press and just have the drill press come down on top and lock the drill press on it.
You use Type-On 2 or 3?
I don't know, whatever I have.
Well, 3 is waterproof, 2 is water resistant.
Yeah, well, I don't, these pieces here, it doesn't matter. Again, if you have a better way, I mean, I'm putting a general, this is what I do. I'm not saying this is what you have to do. If you have a preference with the glue that you like, no, that's fine. There is, if you're going to have a piece that's going outside, you obviously want, you know, water-resistant glue. None of this stuff is going outside.
Leo?
Brady made me something, a birdhouse. He says, here, hang this outside. I said, you know, I mean, it's a beautiful birdhouse. I said, there's no way I'm hanging this outside having weather. It's in my kitchen. I leave it in the kitchen. It's still there, you know.
Leo?
I take credit for it. Everybody says, that's a nice bird. Yeah, I turned that. If they don't like it, then I tell them Brady did it.
You got a question over there.
Yes.
Could you just discuss how you did the feet on this zebra piece?
Again, this is something that I picked up from show and tell. Somebody had car feet. I turned the bottom the way I normally would turn it, and I left it a little bit thicker, and I hollowed out the inside and just left a little rim. And then I proceeded to go and carve the rest of it out. Something that was picked up from show and tell. I can't tell you how many guys that have come to this club that said, you know, they learned more in 1 or 2 Saturdays. You know, they've gone to private classes and everything else that they, you know, different schools that they went to. And they learned more from the guys in the group in 1 or 2 Saturdays that they've been here than they have in a year. So, I mean, it's the show and tell, and it's the questions and the interaction between the guys in the club that will accelerate the learning process and the learning curve. When I started, there wasn't too many guys doing this type of stuff at that point. And how I got started with that is I was buying the exotic wooded wood ply, and the stuff is so expensive that I didn't want, when you get done turning the piece, 90% of your work is on the ground is sawdust. And if you're buying exotic wood, you don't want to waste it all. So that's how I started with the stave pole construction. And at that time in the club, there's hardly anybody using exotics. They were all, you had to get a tree, and it had to be green, and you had to turn it this way, and you had to do that. So I started with the exotics, and that's how I started with different chucks and stuff like that, to work with the exotic woods that I had. But the basic, the feet and everything that you're going to see, you know, you pick up from show and tell. I mean, you might not even ask a question at show and tell. You just see something here, and you'll say, I have to try that. And that's one of the things. You have to be willing to try, and you have to be willing to fail. You know, you're not going to hit a home run every time you step up to the plate. You know, you have to try things, and you have to know what your limitations are. And you don't know what your limitations are until you fail. I mean, we don't want to waste a piece that you spent a lot of time. Again, but what do they call that? A design opportunity? You know, a perfect example. Somebody admitted it. They blew out the bottom of the bowl. You know, and he had so much effort into it, and the minerals that he had, the expense of it, that he says, you know, I don't want to waste this. So let's see what we can do. You know? So it's a design opportunity to come up with something different. But you don't know what your limitations are until you fail. You have to push yourself all the time. You know? The fit on these pieces, you have to be patient and take the time to get the fit right. If you don't get the fit right, you know, it don't look right. You know, and the bottoms are the same way. And you have to use wood that's pretty well stable, because I have done pieces where, again, I didn't check the moisture content on a piece, and I put the bottom in and found out that 6 months later, in the wintertime, that the piece shrunk up, and you see it's almost, the bottom's almost oval. It's got spaces in it. So try to keep the wood as dry as possible. I mean, it's not, depending on where you store your wood, it's not always possible. But that's one of the things when you're doing this type of work, you have to make the fit. I use calipers when I fit, and when I'll turn the bottom, and I'll get close to where it is, and then I'll sand it until I get it to fit exactly. And usually it'll be a press fit when I fit them in.
Let me,
Yes.
all your pieces, 8 pieces?
Yes. Only because I got comfortable with it.
Yeah, well,
I have done 10 and 12 pieces, but when you have your saw set up for a certain angle, and this is set and that's
that's what
set,
I was thinking, yeah.
it's if you're doing bigger pieces, you can go with the different angle. I mean, I've got very comfortable doing this. You almost feel you feel like this big when Pete Schulteis comes in with a piece that's got 8,000 pieces of wood in it. You know, but you know, that's what he does. This is what I do. You know.
I agree with you.
And when you're working with the exotics, I don't spend a lot of time finishing. It's one of my weaknesses, I guess you might say. I don't know why, because that's the key to having a finished product look really well. But I find with the exotics especially, most of them are pretty dense, so if you take the time and sand them down, I use the micro mesh, and it goes down to what, 15,000 grit or whatever. So you know, it goes in stages, and you just keep sanding it down. You'll see the piece gloss while you're sanding it, and then I use a just a basic lacquer finish, either the def that they were talking about spray, or most of my stuff is just regular lacquer spray. And I'll usually spray it while it's on the lathe. The body, before it's I put the bottom and everything in it, still on the lathe. Right after I get done sanding it, take a tack rag, I'll tack it down, and I'll spray it and I'll turn it while it's right on the lathe. So, like I said, some of the finishes leave a little to be desired. And again, you get that from different guys you see, and you're amazed. It's, how could somebody possibly get a finish? You know, it's like glass, some of the stuff that guys finishes that they put on.